computer. All right. Well, good morning, ladies. Good afternoon, ladies. It is March 14th, and this is your Unblock Your Brilliance call for the second Tuesday of March. Can you believe it's March already? Oh my gosh. And so today we are going to be talking about trusting your intuition. It's always, fun for me to figure out what are the various things that we want to talk about and what are the topics we want to tackle for these calls. And ironically and interestingly enough, this one came to me as a download. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. How do you tap into your downloads? So before we dive in, why don't we go around the room and you guys take a moment to check in and share with us where you are in the world today and what's one thing that you're focusing on this week in your world. So who would like to start?
I'll start.
Stephanie?
This is Stephanie, yep. And so this week, in the world, I'm basically going to be focusing for March on video in general, but this particular week, I'm focusing on getting an LLC set up in a different state. Because I just found out in the state of Washington, that there's some kind of weird tax thing if you make over $12,000, that you have to pay 30%. So I'm like, we're moving in 2 months. And I was figured, I should probably only get like a couple more clients because I definitely do not want to exceed that and have to pay like all this extra money. And I was like, someone told me today, it's like, if you open up an LLC in a different state, then you don't have to worry about such issues. So I have to look into that and see the, legalities of that and see if that's a possibility so that I can actually go back to getting clients as opposed to just piecemealing it out and biding my time till I move.
Yeah, no, that's a really good thing to recognize, because I also want to point out to you that you're gonna hold back and keep yourself small from getting new clients so that you don't have to pay more money, but then you won't be earning more money either. So I just want you to look at that and notice what's the goal here. Is it to be of service, and then the outcome of that is make more money, and then you have the joy of paying taxes on that, right?
Well, my main issue is that I only really have like a month and a half, and we're moving, so it's like all the getting stuff ready, and I already have like 5 or 6 clients. I think one new person started, and then I had 2 other people that were interested, and I was like, well, do I really want to tackle more anyway because we're moving? But then also there's that whole presence of, do I really want to pay 30% just for state tax, not even including federal? So that's going to be like 50% if I don't just wait a month and a half. You know what I mean? Because it was kind of like one of those things where it just seemed kind of silly. Unless I got like 3 to 4 more clients to make up for that net loss, it just seemed kind of silly with the extra stress it might give.
Okay. All good. I'm just shining the light, see what there is to see. But
when the person told me, I was like, that's a really good idea. So at the very least I can look into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me, because I'm disabled, some of the stuff going on with that and the lawsuit situation should be resolving soon. I'm like, I just don't know if I want the extra stress, but I'm like, I really don't want to be put in a position where I have to only get 1 or 2 clients. You know what I mean? That was the thing that annoyed me, is that I almost felt like I was forced to because of the situation. Because if I didn't make enough, I would actually have a net loss.
Okay. Well, do you have a CPA that you can talk with about it?
Well, I don't have a CPA yet, but I do have a lawyer that I can talk to.
Okay. Well, if you, I have a great accounting firm that I've worked with for years. And I'm happy, they're here in California, but I'm happy to make the introduction, and you could talk to Kay Aloha. Kay Aloha Couch is her name, and it's her company. And you could talk with her or some folks on her team, and because she's amazing with all the tax laws. So,
yeah, that'd be awesome, because I've been looking for a good referral, and I've been not very successful in finding people that would give me a good referral for CPA here or otherwise.
Yeah, she's an EA, but
I've got a great one in Atlanta if you need one. I mean, he's fantastic, and he works with anybody. He's really great with contractors.
Oh, would you mind sending me? Do you even know who I am? I was gonna say, would you send me a PM?
well,
I do not, but I'm happy to. I'm sure Michelle can connect us, and I can send you his info.
well, you guys are all in the private group on Facebook, and I just sent an email out to everybody in the group as a reminder for this call. So you can send it either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
I don't know what your name. I don't know what your name is.
my name's Stephanie Berchioli.
Okay.
So, like, I think I'm screaming. I'm sorry. I don't.
No, you're not.
Well, my new iPad has extra speakers and the microphone's better, so I feel like I'm.
La la la. No, you're fine. You're just fine. Great. Well, thanks, Stephanie. And by the way, Sonia, Stephanie's in Washington State, right? But is moving to Washington, D.C. soon.
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's where I grew up there from 1972 till 1987 in Alexandria, Virginia. It's a great area.
Oh, wow.
And if you have kids, there's so much free stuff to do there. It's awesome.
I have a bird. That's about it, though.
Monkey the bird. I have Monkey the cat. So,
well, there's free stuff for grown-ups too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Sonia, how are you? It's so great to have you on the call.
I think I'm doing really great considering. Thank you for reminding me and welcoming me. It's been very confronting the last couple weeks, but I've been just going with the flow and being present to the silver lining on the cloud, and really, really grateful for like some of the wisdom distinctions that I got when I took that course. And in the middle of all that's been going on, just kind of managing teenagers and animals and a move and my work. So I have a fantastic attorney, and finally, but just a lot of moving parts going on. That's for sure.
Yes, a lot of moving parts for sure. And I really commend you, my dear, for remaining so level-headed given the various challenges you've been faced with. Sonia was just in a pretty bad car accident. It hit on both ends and has neck issues going on, and all this while trying to move out of a house that's falling down around her ears. So there's been a lot of challenges going on for you. So I've been sending you lots of light and Reiki, girl, trying to get you that stuff working.
I appreciate it. It's been, and I have been really looking for, the positive from it, and thinking, I was considering this move to Florida and had gotten a job offer, from the Omni to be a lobby ambassador, which is basically standing on your feet all day. I bought some time with them saying, hey, I was honest, I've got a car accident. I really would like to start this job. Let's just say towards the end of April, and, I'll touch back with you in a couple of weeks where I am with my progression of things. And, I looked at it and thought, I got a phone call the other day from my boss wanting me to go on workers' comp. And, at first I was thinking, workers' comp, I wasn't at work. Why would I go on workers' comp? It's on the highway. But, my job is partly traveling to and from sales calls, and, that allows them to pay me a discounted rate. And my initial thought was, whoa, wait a minute. No, I don't want to reduce my income. But then I'm thinking, wow, that'd be kind of cool. I don't have to go to work and I get paid anyway. I mean, I was really in the mindset of, okay, let me rush down and get here down to Florida, focus on my family, try and rush my healing process. And, I'm thinking, no, the universe keeps handing me this ticket over and over. I mean, it's been about the fifth time, where I've had a situation where, if I really took the time to argue my case, that there's money involved in it. And I had a fantastic friend who's a psychic, and she said, girl, she goes, you better take it this time or they might step it up the next time. I'm like, you're right, because just on September 1st, I was hit and run and was just recuperating from, the injuries from that, but hadn't really gotten the care that I needed because it was a hit and run. But now that I have somebody who's accepting full liability for this, I'm really getting the proper attention and treatment, being forced to take the rest and really stop and regroup and go, okay, what am I going to do next? And it not be like I have to or a rush situation. So although, yes, the house is crumbling around us and we're sleeping on mattresses and have no pots and pans and everything's in storage, I'm just going, every day I wake up and, okay, Doris, what are we doing today? And ending my day in gratitude and just really being grateful and really present to how it's showing up with the people around me, because I have this pack of teens, many of them with no jobs, eating here, sleeping here, that I'm basically supporting. And, it's my being hurt, despite the fact that I'm completely aware that I've manifested this, has them really, like, I've got a piece of paper saying, Sonia Bass is not supposed to lift things. Okay, look, you guys are taking out the trash. You guys are cleaning up the house. You guys are packing and moving, rather than me just doing it because of out of frustration, them not doing it or not doing it well. So I hate that I manifested this, but I'm really very, very clear that I did, because it was my higher self, like, stepping up and going, okay, well, you're not doing such a good job making everybody else do what they should be doing, so we're going to make it so they have to.
So yay for clarity, and yay for letting go and realizing that you don't have to do it all, Sonia. You've been holding up things for a really long time by yourself. So yeah, this is the universe's way of forcing you to let go and have the other people in your family and around you step up and take the weight off of your shoulders. Right?
Yes, I know. And, they're really, they're not doing it. It's interesting. I've also been so clear that, you've seen some of my desperate pleas that I've put out there on Facebook, which is really uncomfortable for me. I don't like doing that, but I've also realized that, to some degree, for whatever reason, things weren't manifesting or showing up the way I was envisioning or wanting them to. And I'm really great at manifesting. And so when they weren't, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? My son, because I've had like 5 different people attempt to come over and help me with this packing and moving. And when the psychic friend of mine was on her way over here with things in her hand, boxes, tape, and everything, tripped on her front doorstep and broke her ankle.
Oh.
She said, she said to me, I really get what this is about now. And I said, what? Because, we had been talking about the fact that other people had come, and one guy got sent to jail, and another guy, his car broke down. It was just, another person had an accident. It was just really crazy. And she said, your son is a person who has to help you do this. I said, he has got to step up, because if I continue to reach out to other people for things that he could and should be doing, I was like, oh, wow, you're right. And so when I, spoke to him about this in a very genteel way, all of his friends started coming back over. So just today, he had a friend who's been staying here for like off and on since before Thanksgiving. And he was sitting at McDonald's, broke, no job, no money, nothing. And I said, I'm coming to swoop you up, and you're coming back and you're going to help me, do stuff at the house. So he's downstairs cleaning and, taking out trash. And, I showed him my MRI. I'm like, this is the reason why I'm asking you to do this. So if Jacob's not going to do it, I'm going to ask his friends who've been staying here to do it. And that's really uncomfortable for me.
And so this is, I get that it's uncomfortable for you because it's such a natural muscle for you. Well, I'll just do it myself. Right? I'm guilty of this too. So I totally get it. And you're right. This is an opportunity for you to draw a line in the sand, Sonia, with Jacob and go, son, I love you. And this is what's required. If you're going to, if I'm going to support you in any way, this has to be done, period. Period. That's it. Right. Because unless you want something even worse to happen to me, essentially, and not putting that on him, but still, this is about calling forth the people around you to their responsibility and their greatness to do what's required. And you letting go. This is really about, I keep seeing this as surrendering for you, Sonia, right?
No, I know. I'm really, really clear about it. And like I said, it's not comfortable. And, just even yesterday, I went to the grocery store and Jacob's girlfriend was, I picked her up from work. And I said to her, I can't push the cart. I can't get things off the shelves. You have to do it all. And I'm like looking at people watching us around, walking around the grocery store. And we're in the South, right? And she's a beautiful African-American girl. And I looked at her, I said, what do you think people are thinking about us? She goes, I don't care. I said, yeah, you're right. It was just just an observation that I noticed that other people were noticing us.
Oh, well, okay, so let that go.
I did.
Yes, Stephanie, what is it?
I did.
I want to tell Sonia, I'm actually 4'7". And so like when I go to the grocery store and I need help or something, I just look for the single guy and I'll ask him, oh, can you get that down for me? And then he'll get it and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And they're usually so happy because they look like they felt like they did something and they helped somebody.
Oh, I do that. I have no problem doing that. I think that I'm really very clear. Like it's more mental for me about, especially with my son is a great example, is that I'll ask him to do things. Now he's almost 20 years old. I'll ask him to do things. He'll agree to do it. And then he won't do it, or whether it's he's not doing what I've asked him or doing things that I've asked him not to do. And just like, he's that age, I'll look at him and ask him a question and he's deep in his phone and doesn't even respond. And, I'm aware that he will outgrow that. I've got an older one who I went through this same thing with him. It's just the frustration of being, the bad guy, so to speak. I don't mind asking, but sometimes it's just easier to do things yourself than to wait for someone to do that. That's agreed to do it.
It's like when you ask people to do things, sometimes they're actually happy to do it.
Yes.
So it's like sometimes you feel like you're being a burden, but like I constantly have to ask people to do stuff. And after a while, you learn sometimes people actually like helping you out because they know. It's sort of that good Samaritan feeling. So like
right.
when you're coming to different people, instead of feeling like it's a burden, sometimes you're actually doing them a favor because a lot of guys like they really like to help. The mother-son dynamic, that is like I can't even comment on that. So like
well,
that,
and you make a really good point, Stephanie. What's coming up for me is when you're asking for help, you're not coming from a victim place or an entitled place. It's merely a very clean, energetic ask, right? And people are happy to be of service. And Sonia, you're not coming from a victim place either when it comes to people outside of your family. Right? But inside of your family, there's a different energy to it, which is expected because of all the connections that you guys have. And so part of this is clearing out your energy around those asks instead of coming from you should, you gotta, or I'm entitled, or whatever that subconscious process is that's going on. And just having that clean ask, which is hard because you have those intricate dynamics with your son.
Well, and I'll give you an example. My daughter's in the middle of her very first breakup of her boyfriend for the last 7 years, and he broke up with her and didn't give her a reason why, and so she's in that horrific, fresh state of hurt, and she had called me and was talking for hours and hours and hours on the phone. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and I said, I'm just going to come over. And Jacob happened to be up, and so I went downstairs and asked him, would you mind driving me over there? Because I'm not supposed to drive. And he kind of raised his eyebrow at me. He's like, really? And I said, yeah, I'm not supposed to drive. And I said, and plus that, I said, I've got insurance spies who are surrounding my home, taking pictures of me. If that's not enough stress that I already have going on, literally they follow me. Like if I attempt to walk my dog or go down to the mailbox or get in the car and drive, they follow me and take pictures. So I have been, doing as little of that as possible, obviously. So I said, no, seriously, just drive around the block and you'll see someone's going to follow you. And sure enough, here it is, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They do. And, he didn't want to drive me over to his sister's place, which is only 10 minutes away. He didn't complain about it, but he felt imposed upon. And so you can see, it's like I'm just in a mindset of now, because I'm forced to do it, I'm forcing them to do things that, other.
Whoops. What just happened?
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
I think she got booted, like lost her connection.
Oh, Sonia, I love her dearly. She's a long time friend of mine, and she has the weirdest energetics around her. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, the moving thing and people getting maimed. I was like, wow.
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg, honey. She could tell you stories like I'm like gobstruck, like so.
Wow.
So she'll hop back on in a moment. But in the meantime, I want to redirect the conversation because there she is. You came back.
It just cracks me up.
I know.
I know.
I was just telling Stephanie that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just so. Yeah. Let's shift this because I want to turn it to our point of discussion for today, which is about intuition and knowing that, and that's all about that energetics as well that we are talking about. And so there's, I think all of us on the call and in the group, we have an understanding that we have intuition and we know how to use it in various degrees. And I think, learning how to tune into that more is extremely valuable. There's been tons of studies that have been done about intuition. I have some great book recommendations that I'll post up into the group as well on the Facebook page to read for more scientific proof. Because for years personally, I was always very energetically sensitive and intuitive, but I got shamed as a child about, oh, don't be so sensitive and all this stuff. So I shut it down and turned it off and didn't tune into it until I got to be a coach and realized, oh, I have this amazing tool. And I thought, well, everybody gets that, but I realized, no, not everybody gets it the way that I get it. And so it's been my own quest to tune and tap into it further, to be my own science experiment, if you will, to get past my own conversation of, oh, that's just so woo-woo. Because it's not woo-woo. It's actually, there's all sorts of great scientific proof behind it. And some of the books I'll recommend actually go deep into it, whether it's intuition or intention, about how that actually impacts others. And the energy around us, because we all have these energy fields around us that go out several feet from our body. And as you can tune into that energy of other people, whether it's in person or, on the other side of the planet, it's possible. And you can use that as a tool and guidance for you, whether it's in your business or your career or otherwise. So, for example, when it comes to business, John Mikulski at New York College of Engineering tested CEOs on their intuition and found that they were highly intuitive, they were not intuitive, or they were counterintuitive, right? And what he found was that those CEOs who were highly intuitive actually had higher profitability in their companies, right? And whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously is a different discussion. But like even Steve Jobs, in his biography that was written about him, because of all the meditation and the deeper work that he did when he lived in India and tuning into his intuition, he was tapped in at a higher level, which guided a lot of the work that he did. Even have you guys read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah, well, not the whole thing, but yeah.
I think years ago.
Yeah, and so I mean, he wrote that book in the 1920s and was actually commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to write it, and interviewing the great thinkers of his time. And in his interviewing of them, he realized that they were tapping into this higher level of intuition and higher self to get at the answers and the inventions that they were creating for the time. So as a tool, if we think of it as a tool and not a woo-woo thing, it can be really, really powerful. And there are different levels of intuition. So I'm curious, what levels of intuition have you all been able to tune into? If you had to put labels on it, for example.
If I could get a little bit of time to step away from my life, and I could write a book on that or make a movie.
I want to watch the movie.
I kind of like sketched it all. Some of like my download that I had gotten 3/13/13 for Jessica, my daughter, and I call her my realist. I used to call her my skeptic, but now I call her my realist because she's like my point check, like kind of like the devil's advocate for things. And she's coming into her own now as a young woman with her gifts. But she turned to me when I sketched it out for her, and she said, that would make a really great movie. So, yeah, I mean, at some point in time, it actually is on my thought of making that download just itself into a movie. And I'm not sure how it would be portrayed, but because so many people are being activated, I've really met a whole lot of people that have been activated since 2012. It's just really awesome that, the things that used to be considered crazy or woo-woo, or that you don't talk about, or, something's wrong with that person, or they're a witch, that, now it's part of normal conversation with people. I don't even try to taper or subdue anything that I say. And was even texting somebody last night in the middle of the night about, the fifth dimension and ascending and time speeding up. And, he immediately called me on the phone, and I couldn't talk to him because I was doing something else, but I was trying to walk Nico. And he said, how did you get to know all this? And I said, spending a lot of time alone, meditating, research, being on a quest, for truth and personal journey. But I mean, for me, it's been astral projection, quantum jumping, reading people, being able to read people's minds, telepathy. I mean, it's an interesting thing, or being able to move things. It's interesting for me that when something shows up, usually there's a real uncomfortable stage around it, trying to be with it or figure it out or understanding or why it's been given to me at that particular time. It used to be very upsetting. Now I'm much, much, much more comfortable with it. And then I found that when I start to get to maneuver with it, be comfortable with it like a playground, it will either go away or shift, or something else will take its place. And I say that as an example of quantum jumping. For me, I wasn't getting any sleep, quantum jumping for years. I kind of liked it, but at the same time, it was difficult because I was tired, all the time. And then when I realized, I had a particular situation that occurred, and I realized I'm in this person's body. As soon as I realized that I could still be me, as long as I could be true to myself. So before I would go to sleep at night, I would just be a reminder of who I am in the world and what I'm up to, and that's consciously creating. And so as long as I remembered that, I could just let go of myself and allow myself to be out there in the grid and trust that whatever I did or whatever I said or how I was in this other person's being, that I didn't have to be even a party to it. I didn't have to be partially awake. I didn't have to remember it. There was nothing to do. So I could just go out there traveling on the grid being Sonia and still get some sleep. For
So,
me, I found
Sonia,
like it's been a journey.
for those who were listening in on the call, can you explain what quantum jumping is, in case there's a question mark there? Because it's not something widely known, I don't think.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to this, what has occurred, this injury being an opportunity for me to focus on growing the energy tribe, because a big part of that is a section called Explore, so that as you get a party to something, or something occurs to you, or you hear a word, or somebody else shares it, you can go and explore what all of that means. For me, and my particular experience of it was that what I could be awake or I could be asleep, but most of the time it would happen like in my sleeping time, where I would be partially awake, and in somebody else's body experiencing a portion of time in their day, their life, whether it be now or in the past or in the future. I never always really knew that, but sometimes I did get kind of a validation of it. So it was my spirit soul, being in somebody else's life, and kind of like a dream, but I would remember every bit of it, and could have either be just a witness to something, or in this particular situation I was talking about, it was a very long journey with this person, and at one point she goes to pick up a wallet underneath the desk, and I, for the first time, say something and say, "Turn it in." And then I immediately wake up and I'm like, oh, aha, it was an aha moment for me. I get it. If I can be, from my perspective, a positive influence in somebody's life by being in their body, their experience, then I'm, being me. I'm consciously creating. So that was my personal experience with quantum jumping.
Very cool. As you were saying that, I kind of had my own aha of, oh, because I have super vivid dreams right before I wake up in the morning. And it just occurred to me like, oh, maybe that's what that is, because they are so visceral for me.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Stephanie? What's your experience of your intuition and downloads, as I like to call them?
I don't know. I completely cannot relate to anything that was just said, so I don't know what to say.
Okay, no, that's fine, and that's why we're having this discussion. So, because we've got folks in the group who are at various levels. Sonia is extremely intuitive, and so there are different ways to tune into your intuition. Are you familiar, Stephanie, with that inner voice, that inner guide that you have that kind of nudges you in one direction or another from time to time?
No, I pretty much do what I want to do whenever I want to do it.
No, and I get that.
I don't really have like a voice. I mean,
hey, you work at the same place I do.
I mean, I think the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head is generally when people are talking, I basically know what they're going to say first. And there's been a lot of times during like business meetings where I'll provide the answer and then I say, no, no, no. And then 10 minutes later, somebody else will say the same thing I said, 10 minutes before, because I knew exactly where the conversation was going.
Mm-hmm.
But it was too soon for them to be able to understand that what I was saying was valid. Either that or because I'm a short Black woman and they completely just discounted it. I don't know. It could be one of two things.
Well, no. So I want you to realize that is your intuition.
Well,
That is your knowing. That because when you say, "Oh, I know what people are going to say before they say it," that is you being tuned into other people's fields, right? So let me ask you this: when you're on a call with a prospective client, Stephanie,
mm-hmm.
Does that, knowing what they're going to say before they say it, does that happen in those moments?
Well, yeah, because there's more to it than that. I mean, it's like when I'm with a client, the clients usually, by the end of the call, they're like freaked out because I've totally changed their perspective of themselves, their perception of themselves. Because basically within the first 3 to 5 minutes they're talking, I know what their problem is. And so like all of my questions are leading them to that introspection so they can come to the conclusion themselves. So that's just my strategy call, is basically like I figure out what their issue is. I get them to tell me what their issue is, and then I get them to ask me, you know, about my course or about if I can help them. Then they tell me what the price is. So like all the stuff that I do is, I mean, I don't, when I do my quote, I'm using air quotes, sales. I mean, I'm not actually selling. I'm making them like come to the conclusion and then ask me about what I'm selling and ask me about how much they can buy it for.
Yes. So I want to underscore for you that you were doing this unconsciously. So we're bringing it up to a conscious level. That is your intuition. You are tuning into what's going on over there for them and what their challenges are, and asking the appropriate questions to have them re-articulate it to you, even though you're already clear about what it is. So that is your intuition, right? So knowing that is that that tool of yours, that you are already tuned into it. Now we want to take it and we want to amplify the power of that, turning up the knob of it, so to speak, so that you can utilize it more fully in various ways, shapes, and forms, whether it's with clients or elsewhere in your life, and knowing how to wield it in such a way that it doesn't become overwhelming too, right? So Sonia's on the other extreme. No, she's had this ability since she was a child, and it's been like the radio was constantly on of information coming at her, and like, where is that coming from, and why don't these people understand that? Because she sees it and hears it so clearly. And so she's had to learn how to tune it out versus tuning into it. So it's beautiful that we have this bookend going on here today. I love how these things show up. Right? And so there's these different levels of intuition. You know, there's the warning system, like, oh, don't go that way today. Don't go the normal way that you drive to the grocery store or whatever. And then only to find out later that there was a massive accident there, right? There's the connection. That's what you were just talking about, the connection intuition, where it allows you to connect with another person and feel into what's going on for them in various shapes and forms. So, like, for example, I have the ability to literally feel people on the phone. Like, no matter where they are in the world, I can feel what's going on in their body because I'm tuned into their energy, right? It sounds like you're tuned into people's emotions when you're talking with them, Stephanie. And so that's that connection level, and learning how to utilize that for good, not evil, right? is always a good thing, because the more you expand your energy, the more clear you get about who you are and your purpose in the world, your energy expands with greater clarity, which enables you to tune into that energy of other people more and more and more. Then there's the inspirational level. That's the, I call those downloads. So for example, when I'm painting, I'll get a download of, well, here's a great example. I have a kitty named Raven, and many, many years ago, I went through capturing like 9 feral kittens, and I fostered them all, and I got them all homes except for the last 2, which never quite left, Squeak and Spot. So when I unsequestered Squeak and Spot, Raven was like, I'm out of here. I'm not. And she literally didn't come in the house for like a year. She was around, you know, she never left, but she was boycotting. So one day I get a download, paint a raven. Okay. So I pull out my watercolor pad, I sketch out a raven, and I started painting it. And a week later, my raven kitty decides to come back in the house. she's like super lovey-dovey, will actually sit in my lap, and she would never ever do that before. So it's, really strange or curious. I get these downloads of things to paint in various ways, shapes, and forms. So Sonia, do you get those kinds of downloads when it's time for you to create some creative thing? By the way, Stephanie, Sonia is also an amazing graphic designer and creative director. So if you ever need any graphics created or a website built, she's your gal.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
I'm a dot connecting fool. I can't help myself.
For me, I have to find ways to turn it off because it never stops. And, that's why my business is called Creative Idea Fountain. And it's taken me a lot of years to kind of fine tune, how I can integrate, my intuition with who I am and what I do in the world. And it's been a real struggle. And so, yeah, I have to turn it off, and it's interesting. You're a party to Shane. Our friend here on the call doesn't really know anything about him, but, he asked me the question of something like, what are you thinking when we make love to each other? I said, it's the only time that I don't think. I didn't think that I didn't know that I was doing that or not doing that, but I guess over time that's like a place of freedom for me, where I'm not, I turn my mind off and I'm just really in my body, and that doesn't happen very often. And so I have to force myself. Otherwise, like even in yoga, if I do yoga, to really be just with my body and not, with my mind constantly tuned into what's going on with everybody else. And I had gone to do ayahuasca in the jungle in Peru, and the shaman told me, no, you have to purify, you have to contact me 2 months before, I don't just take some person off the street, to go do ayahuasca in the jungle. Well, the next day, he's taking me to do ayahuasca in the jungle. And when he left me, I said, now you need to leave me here. He said, I can't leave you here. I said, I'm asking you to leave, because if you don't, I'm going to have to go through all your stuff before I can even get to me. And he goes, oh, and he got it. And so he left and came back and checked on me once or twice. But it's like that. I said, for me to put myself into an altered state, I need to have nothing distracting me around me at all, because I'm so much like that all the time.
Oh my God,
it's not a happy. People think it's cool. It's like, oh, that's so great. And I'm like, no, it's not great. It's hard. I've really learned how to be with it. And like I said, especially now that I'm creating, the Energy Tribe, is that I'm so clear now what my purpose is. It's a matter of how do I remove all the distractions from my life so that I can really focus on, okay, I've got this person over here doing Tesla energy lights and this person over here doing access bars, and I've got this great venue where I can put them together. Let me put that together. I mean, to be 51 years old and only now getting to the point where I can consciously create that, I'm thrilled that I'm at this point in my life. And I'm also grateful for this accident, because it's forcing me, to do what I have been wanting to do my entire life.
Yay for that. Stephanie, What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Like when Sonia was talking, when she's talking about altered states and not being able to be around other people, it's like I realized, like I went to when I was in college, I was in an international business program in the Netherlands. And so we'd like smoke weed or something, and I could not stand being around people. And I have the same problem now. Like when I'm drinking or something, I can be around 1 or 2 people. But like when I'm around too many people, it's more of like a bullshit thing though. It's like like people are talking and it's like all so fake. And you can just see so clearly that half the stuff that they're doing is just some facade that they put up. And like, it's just so pervasive, and it just frustrates me because I know they're not being their true selves. And it just really irritates me. But it's like I can't really be when I'm around people, because all I can see is the fakeness of what they're doing, and they're trying to project this vision of who they want to be as opposed to who they are.
Yes, exactly. We're all on the same page.
Yes, I understand.
That totally. Yeah. And so know, Stephanie, that that sense, that clarity that you have, that is your intuition. So you have a very powerful intuition, and you've just scratched the surface. You've been doing a lot of it unconsciously, it sounds like. And now it's like, oh, okay, if I just pull the veil back and see that that's actually a tool that you have to utilize.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I had this thing for a while. It was kind of weird. Like, my grandmother, I hadn't seen her in a really long time, like years. And one day I decided I was just going to drive over there. And then she was really sick. I didn't even know she had cancer. And then she died the next day. And then, like, my grandfather, like, I hadn't seen him in a while when I moved out here, and we went back and I got to see him. And then he died like less than a year and a half later. And the time when he died, I couldn't go see him because I was on medical disability and I had gotten cut off financially, and I didn't know when I was going to get any money. So when he was sick and I would have gone out there because people had told me, I wasn't in a position where I could go out there. So I basically got to see him right before I went on medical leave. So, like, I mean, if I had not seen him then, I would not have seen him for like 3-4 years before he died or something.
Right.
So like, this is within like 15 years of each other. Like, I got to see my grandparents basically right before they passed away. So it was like the last time I got to see him was totally it, and it was kind of like, oh, let's just go on a trip to go see your family, and then we'll go see my family in Illinois. It wasn't like some big, long, planned out thing.
Yeah, no, I get it. And so that very much is that intuitive support system, right? That's another version of this. Like, oh, you need to go do this now. Like, oh, okay. Turn left versus right. And it's
Especially
just
with people that are dying.
well, but no, I mean, and that's you tuning into that field unconsciously, like, oh, I need to go see my grandmother. I need to go today. Okay. Right. And it's just that knowing that we have, even though we don't know how we know it. And so now there's a lot of actual scientific proof that shows that, yes, we are all part of the field, and we can tune into it. And it's a matter of how big of a pipeline do you want to have to tune into it, right? So your pipeline is pretty significant, but it's been veiled by your brain going, oh, everybody does that. But no, everybody doesn't do that. And then Sonia has a huge pipeline that's open. The faucet's open all the time, and she has to like how to close the aperture down on it so it's not overwhelming to her, right? I'm kind of somewhere in between and have figured out how to utilize it. And the more tuned in I become, the more how do I say, I don't want to say I'm reading people's minds, but their words come to me before they come out of their mouths. Often. A lot of the time. I'm like, oh, and I just have to smile.
Finishing people's sentences, because I'm processing it, and I just start speaking, and I realize I just said what they were going to say out loud, and they're like, yeah. Or they'll just repeat the thing I just said. And then I always feel like kind of a jerk, though, because like I interrupt them.
And no, you're not being a jerk. You're just literally on the same wavelength. That's all that is, right? So for both of you, do you ever get to a place where you're not trusting it? Like, I don't know if that's right or if it's leading me in the right direction. Yes, no, maybe.
No.
Well, one of the things that I created over the last couple of months, and I don't know that I shared it with you, Michelle, was that, you know, I think I had mentioned to you sometime back I wanted to create a workbook based on the design process that I had created, which is based on the Seed of Life. And so I've also created a way that people can read themselves through the Seed of Life. And I was doing it in sand with my son, and I would love to share it with you at some point and get your input and feedback on it. But basically, it's also an opportunity for you to ask yourself that question, like, do I want to go skydiving today? And to look at your, based on what your body is feeling, not what you're thinking, but what your body's feeling. It's like an empty or a full tank. Like if and instead of E and F, you have a Y or a no, yes or no, and just breathe with it and go, how do I feel about this? And your body never lies. Right. And so I have been living my life making choices that way for quite some time. And it's interesting, again, to kind of see how my doing that affects the people around me, and especially my children. My daughter literally got on a plane this morning at 6:00 in the morning because in her teary state last night, I was encouraging her to go visit her big brother. I said, well, do you want to go? She's like, I don't know. I said, well, ask yourself, do I want to go to Hawaii? What does your body say? Oh, yes. And so without hesitation, she booked a flight and she's on her way to Hawaii. No logic around it, not what am I going to do? Where am I going to stay? No working it out. My body says yes. And so everything else is going to show up as it needs to.
Yes.
And to get her to that point, my realist, because usually when you tell people to make choices based on how your body feels, they're going to look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's something I ask all my clients in the work that I do with them. You get the head answer right from here up, and then I'm like, okay, now how does that feel in your body? Oh, well, I have a knot in my stomach. Okay, well, what's the knot trying to tell you? Right? And that's that process of tuning in and really getting present in our bodies, and enables us to tune into that intuition more clearly. So I wanted to give you guys this tool to help you tune into that more clearly. And Stephanie, I think you'll find this really, you'll really like this, because it's easy to get caught in our heads, right, in our headspace. And so this is a process from Sonia Choquette, who's a world-renowned intuitive, has written many, many books. Highly recommend her. And she calls this clearing the garbage, right? So if you have a problem or a question or something that you're seeking an answer to, you think about we'll say we'll use your daughter, should I go to Hawaii or not? We'll put that out there on the table as the question, right? And then you do this 3 times with each question. So my mind says X, and you just say out loud the very first thing that pops in your head. My mind says X. My mind says, yes, I'd like to go to Hawaii. My mind says, oh, I can't afford to go to Hawaii. My mind says, I have too much stuff I have to do. All right. So that's the first level. Then you let your fears speak. I'm afraid that if I go to Hawaii, I'll miss out something here in Atlanta. I'm afraid that if I go to Hawaii, then I'll feel guilty for not taking care of my mom. I'm afraid that if I go, then I'm going to miss a work issue. So then again, it's whatever comes to your mind the very first time that you say that, I'm afraid that, I'm afraid that, I'm afraid that. And then the third piece is really letting your heart or your spirit speak. So then my spirit says, I want to go to Hawaii. My spirit says, I need to see my brother. My spirit says, I need some space away from Atlanta. Right? So it enables you to work through the layers of the head noise to get to what actually is going on with your heart and your spirit. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And, I've shared with her yours, is it coming from acceptance, or is it coming from approval, control, or
safety?
Why am I blanking?
Is it a wanting of approval, wanting of safety, or wanting of control? Yeah.
Right. Yes. And, I've done that with her, and, she's the only one that I've ever actually, shared that with, but it's really awesome to see how receptive, and how people can pick up really quickly. As soon as I'm not resistant, to some of those tools and start integrating them, and that others are really open and welcoming to it. It's like they're yearning and craving it.
Stephanie, how about you? Any questions about that process?
No, it seems, usually I just go with I won't say go with my gut, but that's basically what I do is, if I want to go to Hawaii, I'm like, well, I got 15 things on my plate right now, but I could push off 10 of them and get 4 of them done by Friday, so I'll go. That's usually my thought process.
Okay. Well, good for you. Yeah, no, it sounds like you're actually more tuned into your intuition than you realize. So that's great.
I think the whole conversation made me question, like, what is like the definition of intuition? Because it was just in a tangent that I'm not necessarily aware of. I usually am fairly decisive in things, and I don't really go back. And like once I feel like, oh, that's a good choice. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Like if someone asks if I want to do something, I'm like, no. I don't feel like I have to give them justifications half the time. It's just like, no. It's like I don't want to.
That's great. That's great. That just shows me that you're really clear on who you are and where you stand, what your stand is in the world, right? Another tool you can use that you may or may not be familiar with. All right, I don't know if you guys. I know Sonia's not on video. I don't know if you can see me on video, Stephanie. But can you see my pendulum that I have here?
You're not going to hypnotize me, are you?
No, I'm not going to hypnotize you. But the cool thing about a pendulum is it aligns with your energy, right? So let me move my camera down a little bit. So I can go, so I've got my feet on my floor, and if I just hold this right, it's just going to stand mostly, it's just going to be still, right? When I hold it still. So now if I put my hand underneath it and I'm just holding it, I'm like, can I have a yes, please? And it automatically starts to turn pretty vigorously to the right all by itself. And I can stop it. Here's my hand, right? I can stop it. And I go, can I have a no, please? Oops. And by itself, it'll now start vigorously turning to the left. Right? And it'll spin. So you can, as Sonia said, your body knows what's right for you. So you can ask questions of your body. And the pendulum is another way to give you a perspective on what's required. So let's see, is it time for me to eat lunch? Oops. Well, it's thinking about it. Nope, it's changing its mind. No, it's not time for me to eat lunch. It starts twirling back the other way. But there's various levels of questions you can ask it in a yes/no fashion to get some clarity. And this is just one tool. You can go to, health and wellness stores or various places, and you can actually find them. They come in like gemstones and different ones. I have a couple different ones that I utilize, but they're kind of cool, and they make for neat magic tricks when people who don't get about the energy that we have around us, they like, wow, how'd you do that? So it's always kind of fun to have.
Question for you, like when you use it, have you like, so I'm like, remember I come from like an IT background, so like when you're doing that, like, have you actually like written down like how many times it said yes or no, and like how many times that decision is actually proved to be a good one versus like where it was maybe not the best decision?
That's an excellent question, and no, I haven't, because I'm not a logical linear thinker, but I would invite you to do that and see what you find. I love your logical brain, Stephanie. It's so beautiful. You're just like,
that's she's like my daughter, the realist.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing is like, I'm not saying yes or no, because I figure it's like a subconscious response is making you do the movements, right? Like if you told your mind is like yes or no is what I want, and you're trying to clear it, I mean, you're obviously still making a decision in order to make those movements. But like, what's the accuracy? Because if I'm making bad decisions, I may want to do the opposite.
Well, that's the interesting thing too, because I'm not actually moving my hand. It's just moving on its own based on the energy.
The thing is,
right?
Are you 100% sure you're not moving it at all? Because it may be like subconsciously you're moving it in tiny increments because you think that that's the answer. Like it's still, mental energy.
Right.
Like
No,
it would be the answer that you truly want, but you're not thinking about it on a conscious level.
Right. No, it would be a really great science experiment. And there are times when it won't move at all, right? It'll be like, no, I have no answer for you today. we're not clear on what what that is. So yeah, and you're right, absolutely. And maybe I'll start doing that. Cool. Well,
Call me trouble.
No, I love it. You're absolutely right. I'm a big fan of science, but I'm not a big fan of all the nitty gritty details that go with scientific research.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, well, any questions about our conversation today?
Hey, ladies. I don't know how much longer our call is, but I have to take this call, and I'll be back as soon as I can. Okay.
No, we're finishing up, so I'll touch base with you offline, Sonia. Have a great day.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.
Any questions from you, Stephanie?
I think I'm good. This is interesting for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I would invite you to try it on from a scientific experiment kind of perspective, like, noticing, bringing that intuition, that tuning in that you're already doing to more of a conscious level, and seeing how you can use it more fully as a tool in your work.
I think I'd be scared too.
Yeah. How so?
Sorry, do you say how so?
Yeah. What would be scary about it?
Well, I mean, I'm fairly fully aware of what I'm doing, but sometimes it feels like some weird form of manipulation. So it's like if I was doing it on a more conscious level, I think that I would actually feel like it was verging on manipulation.
Well, are you manipulating people?
No, I mean, actually, I did like a test call in front of a group, and she was like really excited, and everybody thought, oh my God, your questions were so amazing. But I mean, if you're doing it and you're forcing it, sometimes, I think that you have to kind of wonder, is it in the best interest of the person you're talking to?
And so I want to give you a point of clarification, because this isn't about forcing it. This is just about being more cognizant of it. And there's not an evil bone in your body. So I know it's not coming from a place of manipulation. It's coming from a place of curiosity and being of service, right?
Exactly. Because I want to make sure that I can help them. And then I also want to understand that I can actually see their thought process, and can truly give them value and
absolutely
lead them. They need to be.
It's coming from that genuine place, and so you can let go of that story of, oh, I'm being manipulative, because you're not. You're just not. You're genuinely coming from a place of, how can I be of service, and can I be of service to this person? Because if I can't, then I'll tell you, no, I can't be of service. Right?
Oh yeah, I've told point blank and explained why.
Yeah, just like you said at the beginning of the call, right? No, if you're not really interested, then I can't help you, right?
Well, it's like even if there's also been times I've told, like, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You need to be focusing on this, and I can't help you with that. And they're usually quite excited that I told them this, because it wasn't even anything they considered as a possibility. But I mean, it's what I thought, so I have to be honest with them. And I'm not just there for the money. I mean, the money is a secondary benefit.
Absolutely. It's an outcome. It's not the goal.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So yay for you for just shining the light on it a little more fully and saying, oh, okay, I am already doing this. And how can I just turn up the volume a little bit on it to see how else I can utilize it to guide my process and my work with clients and your overall success and happiness in the world.
Yeah. Cool.
Yay. All right, my dear. Well, great. Glad you could be here on the call. Our next call is going to be I believe the 28th. Yes, the 28th of this month. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Well, you have an awesome day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Perfect. Talk to you soon. Bye.